Nice to see you in name only.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I can turn on my video as long as you don't share my video. I don't know.
No, keep it off. I think that's the best way to do it. And I just want to thank you for jumping on. And this is a real tough time we're living in with COVID-19. And as such, I just want to acknowledge to everybody that's listening or watching that Monterey County is definitely taking things seriously, as is the state of California. And the importance of social distancing and the stay-at-home order is true. It's key and needs to be respected. I'm definitely impacted personally, as I have a business that's been suspended since March 17th. And as I've been in touch with so many people in the community, I've made contact with a constituent here that's on the call that has actually come down with COVID-19. So we'll just keep our caller here anonymous. And this is a sort of interview to just share with folks firsthand how important a situation we're in. And with that, I thought maybe our caller today, as I think I'll refer to it, to maintain privacy, could just speak to the personal experience that they went through. So maybe a word or two. Yeah.
Sure, Steve. Thank you for having me. And I want to be able to help people through my experience. Last Saturday and Sunday, I came down with diarrhea, and in the night, I had full body cramps around my torso, but it was also in my back. And I've given natural childbirth, so I knew the difference between, I don't know, something that was painful versus just indigestion or maybe menstrual cramps. And I felt pain in my kidneys. So Sunday morning around 11 o'clock, I went into CHOMP and I followed protocol. They took my temperature, they took a chest x-ray, they took my oxygen, and gave me the flu swab before they would give me COVID, but I had to meet with a doctor, and the doctor had to speak to the infectious disease person because they didn't want to give me the test. The other reason I went in is because I thought I had come in contact with someone who was showing symptoms, who told me I had come in contact with them and was waiting from their results from Natividad. And they had a dry cough, they had headache, they had a fever, and that had been going on for 2 weeks. And even though I kept my social distancing from that person, I knew that the wait time for when you're contagious or when it's incubating, I could have been exposed. So being a mother of 2 small children, I was nervous and I had those symptoms. And I went in and I had to plead. There was no one else there, but I had to beg to get tested. And the only way they said, well, diarrhea and headache, could have been something else. But then I said, well, I think I've had exposure to someone. So testing in itself to get the chest x-ray, test my oxygen, flu, all of that took about an hour and a half, but it was scary. Going into the room that they have is very sterile. They take it very seriously. You almost feel like you're in an alien war zone movie. So that was my experience with that. Then Monday, they said I would get the results within 24 hours. And I didn't hear anything for a day. So I thought, I guess I'm good. Because they said they wouldn't call if I was negative. However, I just decided to call the health department on Tuesday morning. And Tuesday morning, they said that they hadn't gotten anything yet. And about 2 hours later, a doctor from CHOMP called me and informed me that I was positive.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. How did you take that? I mean, you had to be, well, you were, I'm sure, uncomfortable. I mean, you were still sick.
Actually, I was feeling better at that point, so I was shocked.
Okay.
I was in my kitchen drinking my coffee, hanging out with my children, and that we had just been outside and the window was open, and I had been on a bike ride, and I felt okay, and
Wow.
so when she told me that, I said, "Excuse me," and she said, "Yeah, you're positive." So she told me what I should do. She told me one of the things that I was a little taken back from was that I should wear a mask with my two small children, and I
Wow.
keep 6 feet distance from them. But I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and we know that's impossible. So anyway, I mean, we were just cuddling the night before together and eating off of the same plate, a burrito. So the Saturday, when I had my diarrhea and headache symptoms, in the later afternoon, evening, I took my children for a walk, and I thought it was a little strange, but my 2-year-old had a runny nose, and that evening my 5-year-old had a sore throat, but both cleared up the next day like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And they've been fine ever since.
Yes, no fevers. I'm giving them their vitamins and elderberry, but for them, they're as rambunctious as possible.
I imagine. How have you been since? So today, the day of this call, the 13th of April, it's been 7, 8 days since, or no, 6 days, 7 days since you found out?
Yes. So the caseworker for the county told me I was probably infectious the Thursday before,
Okay.
right? So that was like 3 days. We could even go back to the Wednesday, but she said my symptoms started on Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday I was fine but my kidneys still ached. And I
Yeah,
thought
sure.
that was kind of strange. I thought, and I remember at night just having like I couldn't get comfortable in bed. It was, it reminded me of being pregnant. And when those first labor pains start, women will get that if they're listening to this. So I felt great for 3 days, like no symptoms recently. And then Saturday afternoon around 3, I had the worst. I can't describe it. It felt like someone was clawing my intestines from the inside,
Wow.
and the kidney pain in my back had gone away, but and to just be frank, I sat on the potty trying to get out anything that was trying to come out. Nothing was coming out.
Mm.
I drank seltzer water. I did Pepto-Bismol. I tried stretching. I took a hot bath with Epsom salt. I was in a lot of pain. So that evening, I went to bed early. I put my feet on a pillow, a heating pad on my belly. And then it was so painful. Finally, I took 2 acetaminophen, and I fell asleep for a little bit. And then I woke up, and I think probably because I took it on an empty stomach, it felt like I drank, how do I explain it? A can of acid in my stomach. It felt like my stomach was eating itself. It was, I on a natural childbirth, being on a level 10 of pain, like when you're pushing, this was a level 6. I
Oh,
was
geez.
considering going to the ER. I just didn't know what to do. But the heating pad helped, and I wrote it out, and I drink Gatorade and water. And I know my symptoms are not the cough, the fever, and the chest pain. However,
Right.
it does. I researched little, and this occurs in about 10% of people.
Got it.
And my doctor said maybe the virus is just centralized in your gut, and so
Sure.
it's different. So
What are your plans moving forward? I mean, you just self-care, eating well, keeping your body strong. I mean, and how many more days you think you have?
Well, so the self-care, I started taking 2 vitamin C once I learned, and then recently just a vitamin D. I always take my B vitamin anyway, And then I'm taking a zinc lozenge that just is on your tongue. So, and then just drinking Gatorade and water and orange juice. So in the beginning, I didn't really feel so sick. And the caseworker said, I said, so what should I do? And she said, treat yourself like you have the flu. Like, just pretend that you have the flu to prevent the flu. And usually in real life, right? Like, we can go to our acupuncturist. We could go take a sauna. We can get a massage. We could, do a little more self-care. But now that we're quarantined and shelter in place, a lot of that's on ourselves. So, rest. But for instance, today I spoke to my caseworker, and this is where I feel like I'm hoping my experience will help other people. She told me, she said, okay, you're done out of isolation tomorrow. And I thought, okay. And then when I spoke to my doctor today, he said, no, you need to wait 3 days from the last symptom you had. Now, the difference between their opinion is the caseworker told me, well, because you have diarrhea and a headache, though that's not a cough, it's not vomiting, it's not sneezing, it's not an infectious behavior or symptom. However, I know that this can be in the air, it can be on our shoes, it could be on our clothes. The doctor was saying, no, you need to wait at least 72 hours to go back into the world. And if you do, please wear a cloth mask. Both did recommend going for walks, getting sunshine. But if you do see someone, cross the street immediately. Even though most people are respecting that social distancing, they recommend still having physical activity.
I want to.
But at the same time, you need to care for others, because even though you maybe aren't, it's not that you're going to get sick again. You don't want to infect more people.
Yeah. How about your kids? I hear one of them in the background there. Is everything cool there? And do you intend to have them tested or anything like that?
Well, here's the thing that's concerning. Since my test came back, I spoke to the caseworker and I said I might have infected grandparents or my parents, because we don't know when I was infectious, right? And then my 2 children, and then possibly their father. So, and the nanny. So that's a total of 6 people. They have not wanted to test any of them. They've just quarantined them.
Okay. So they're on lockdown.
So I guess my concern is, I was thinking today, if I'm one person who's infected and I come in contact with, let's just say 5 people, those 5 people could be infected, but they're quarantined, but we're never going to know because we're not testing them. And this, so we could say, well, we'll see, because they're going to come down with a symptom. Well, no, with this virus, 50% of people are asymptomatic, correct?
That's
so
right.
So the data might not reflect the true amount of people who've been infected.
Gosh, this is so valuable. I want to be mindful of your time and your family's time. Any advice that you'd have for people now that you've gone through this? Anything that comes to mind?
I guess for me, it's been emotionally very hard, because in my workplace, I was the first employee to come down with it, and people had different reactions at work, and it's uncharted territory, and I don't think many businesses know how to deal with it. Luckily, I had a great HR lady, and she says there is a law now in California, the COVID-19, that allows for 10 paid work days. So I want people to know that, because even though I was planning on working with 2 small children from home, I was emotionally distraught. And when pressure came on me to do my performances at work, I don't think people understood that I was, the last 2 days, I was talking to doctors, pediatricians, caseworkers, researching, my nurse friends, trying to be proactive. And then also, because I am a mom of 2 small children, if I did have to go to the hospital or be hospitalized, who's going to take care of my 2 small children?
Right.
Because that would be very limiting. And luckily I have 2 friends that said they would step up for that. But, you know, I can't put my parents, because they're elderly and they have other symptoms, ailments. And then, you know, and then Nanny is quarantined for 14 days. She doesn't want to get her family sick. So when I asked the county, you know, is there a nurse that could come and help, like in-house? No, they're overwhelmed. They have too much of a caseload. So I guess one of my big concerns that I would love to be addressed by the county of Monterey is, how would people who don't have that backup, how would that help them? Because even though I'm feeling better and I'm on the mend and I'm younger, that was a big worry for me. In the middle of the night, I'd wake up thinking, if I were to go to the hospital, who's going to take care of my 2 children? And, you know, people are scared of this. So, and the other thing is, I had people ask, how'd you get it? What'd you do? How'd you get it? And a kind of a sense of guilt came over me. And luckily my HR person was so understanding, and she goes, well, we don't ask people who get the flu, how'd you get it? How'd you get the flu? You know, and this is 10 times more contagious, and we don't ask. I wore protection. I wore masks when I went out. I wore gloves when I grocery shopped. I kept my social distancing. I wiped down door handles. I used my shirt to open the car door. You know, when we exercise, we'd only go on nature hikes and stay away from people on paths and wait for them to pass. So it wasn't like I was acting foolish. So my other message would be, it can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. It's just very contagious. And maybe the nanny infected me, or maybe I infected her. It's so hard to tell. And then my last point I'd like to say is, there's a lot of data going around saying, okay, how did you get it? By travel, person to person, communicable, like community. But in all reality, it's person to person, right? It's just people are transmitting it to other people.
That's it. And the potential exposure that you had, I think you mentioned to me prior to the start of this call, it came back negative, right? I mean, you know.
Oh, my exposure in general?
Yeah. Well, no, you had said that you had been contacted by someone that said they may have had it. They were tested at Natividad, and that was negative.
Yes.
Gosh, yeah. So what an incredible testimony. And I just, you know, I'll say personally, you know, as your friend, you're the first person in my network that I know personally, you know, since you and I have connected and you've shared with me this exposure and this, you know, this diagnosis. I have another friend in New York City that's going through things. It's very difficult for him. But it just means a lot. And again, just want to thank you. We'll go ahead and I think we can end our visit here. And I just appreciate your willingness to share your testimony in all of this as to COVID-19 surviving. You're a survivor. And in a few more days, you know, released to the wild, so to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Steve. Thank you. And I wish your friend the best in New York. That's harrowing what's happening there. I do want to make one point too, and and so there's so much misinformation out there, and I think it's just because it's a new virus. But for instance, today I asked my caseworker, will I be immune versus my doctor? And the caseworker said, yes, you are. You could go out theoretically without a mask and gloves and be okay. She said, however, if you were to touch something and then you were to hug someone and it's on you and your person, or you don't wash your hands,
Yeah.
and you could pass it to that person. So I want to
Still get vector. Yeah.
I want to convey that. However, my doctor, on the other hand, told me, yes, you're probably immune. And he said that it's not that there are different strains happening right now. However, we don't know how long you're immune for. It could be a month, it could be 6 months, it could be up to a year. He said, we just don't know because it's such a new virus. So that's something I want the public to hear, because I don't want them to go out there and, just think, hey, I'm good to go, and then not wash their hands and get their grandma or grandpa sick. So that we all still need to do our part, and hopefully the county of Monterey can think a little bit more of how to help people who maybe are quarantined for 14 days, who can't go out shopping, or who don't know how to do online shopping because they're older, or single parents such as myself, to have a backup plan. I think a lot of this disease or virus or pandemic is so emotional and mentally straining on individuals as well as the community.
Gosh, all so important points. You're so articulate too. This is Councilmember Steve McShane speaking with a resident of the region that's been willing to share their story in COVID-19. So thank you, and I'll go ahead and end the call, and just want to say thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Steve.
All right.
Have a great evening.
Be strong.
Thank you.